The Dynasty New England Patriots é a nova série documental da Apple TV Plus que conta a história da dinastia New England Patriots na era Brady e Belichick. A série documental tem 10 episódios e a cada semana 2 novos episódios inéditos serão lançados na plataforma, contando com a presença dos próprios Tom Brady e Bill Belichick, o dono da franquia Robert Kraft, ex-jogadores, ex-rivais, fãs e personalidades importantes para entender o que foi essa grande história. E a Apple TV Plus nos convidou para conversar com Jeff Benedict, autor do livro Dynasty, que inspirou a série, e também ele é produtor executivo do documentário, e o diretor e produtor executivo Matthew Amichek, para a gente bater um papo e fazer algumas perguntas sobre essa grande história da dinastia Patriots.
I felt like these series are not only for Patriots fans, but for sports fans in general. But as a Patriots fan, I might be a little biased, so I wanted to know, who do you think is the main target audience for this documentary? NFL fans, sports fans, football fans?
I think all of the above, but just as much as it is a thing for Patriot and football fans, I think people who hate football, don't like to watch it, think when they watch this, what they'll find is a deeply human story that has, yes, football is the thing that drives the plot along, but it's really about the people and the characters, and it's about things like obtaining success, betrayal, facing your own mortality, not feeling wanted anymore. And I think that's really what this story is about to me. And that's why, I sometimes call it Shakespeare with football, because it's much more than a football story. But I think, at the same time, the people who are diehard Patriots fans will have a lot to watch and a lot of new things to watch. And, fans of other NFL teams, all I can say is I was one of them, and I did not grow up a Patriot fan by any stretch. But there's a lot in here for everybody to watch.
You agree, Jeff?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we weren't trying to tailor this for Patriots fans for sure. I mean, I think Patriots fans are sort of inherently interested in things that are written or filmed about their team, but this is, because you've seen, it's much more than a football story. It's much more than a sports story, for that matter. And I think there's a lot to, that's one of the reasons I was drawn to, writing a book about it in the first place, is that it is much bigger than just a sports or football story. There's a lot of great human stories, and not just about Brady and Belichick and Kraft, although they're sort of the three main drivers of the story, but there's a lot of other really interesting people and storylines that come to play in the dynasty. And you don't even have to really be a sports fan or know what 3rd and 10 means to appreciate like what Drew Bledsoe was going through when he was injured and nearly died in a hospital room, and then recovers and finds out he's actually lost his job to some kid that no one's ever heard of named Tommy. And then that kid's going to go on and win a Super Bowl, and suddenly you're off to the races, and there's this dramatic story unfolding. And I think that as storytellers, it was appealing to me as a book writer, and certainly appealing to Matt as a filmmaker.
That's awesome. And Jeff, with you, I think you have an amazing way of telling stories so that the reader feels like they're a part of it and even has some kind of decision in it. I felt this a lot. How was the process to try and pass that from the book to the screen?
Well, I was actually thinking a lot about the book becoming something for the screen before I even started writing. So I'd been researching for over a year, year and a half, and I talked about it actually with the team and the organization, because I knew in order for that to actually happen, they would have to buy into the idea. You couldn't make this without the team's cooperation, access to their archival material, all that stuff. And so, but I just thought the story really lended itself to that. But they're two totally different mediums. the book, for example, literally doesn't have a picture in it. There's not even a photo insert in the middle. You don't want people to look at pictures, and you want them to use their imagination when they're reading and create pictures in their mind. That's not what you're doing when you make a documentary. And the reason I wanted to work with Matt was because, I mean, there are a lot of really good filmmakers out there, documentary filmmakers, but bringing this kind of story alive, I thought, we really needed somebody who, A, was capable of taking a super hefty sports story and making something that doesn't necessarily feel like a sports story. And I'd had the opportunity to work with Matt once before on the Tiger Woods film, which is similar because that's not just a sports story. And that's what we were trying to do with this project. So for me, it was pretty rewarding to work with him in this way for two plus years on something that was near and dear to my heart. And I knew he'd make it in a way that would make it near and dear to other people's hearts, including people, by the way, who don't like this team. Like, I think if you're a New York Giants fan, a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, there's a lot of things to watch in this film and actually get pretty excited about, even though you might root against the Patriots.
NFL is growing hugely in Brazil in the past years. We are even going to have an NFL game here in September, which we're very excited for. And many Brazilian Patriots fans have never even heard of many of the great stories in the series, or at least didn't see it live because they started watching NFL more recently. How do you think this series can impact a world that has connected with the NFL from, I don't know, 2015 to now?
In every way possible. Look, in America, the national pastime used to be baseball, right? That's what everybody used to watch. That was sort of the sports identity of our country. And that changed in the last 30 plus years. And I think there's a reason for it. The NFL is, to me, in my opinion, the greatest sport out there. And I think that the reason that it has taken over our country is partly, to me at least, I think it's the most cinematic sport out there, for one thing, right? That's just sort of like looking at it. I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to watch. And you see that in this series, we have access to all of this footage of, the plays and the stuff on the football field. And it's stunning to look at. But to me, there's so many great stories in football, and in particular for the New England Patriots story, right? This is a story that starts out as basically almost like the black sheep of the NFL, right? Before, everybody now sort of thinks of the Patriots as the most dominant dynasty in NFL, if not sports history. And but they didn't start that way. And so the first part of the story is a very simple story of how does a group of people go from being not very good to becoming a dynasty? And the answer is sort of in this idea of all of these people coming together and being very selfless and having a common goal and putting aside their, what the things that are important to them as individuals and thinking about the team. And then the next stage is where things become much more complicated, right? And it's when you go from winning 3 and 4 years, and then everybody starts looking around and thinking, I think these guys are winning a little too much for my tastes. And then people start saying, well, they're the evil empire now. They're not just the little engine that could. And then all of a sudden, people accuse them of Spygate, and in some people's minds, they were called cheaters. And then you have this story of Tom Brady for the first time being injured and sort of having to face his own mortality. And then things like Deflategate and Aaron Hernandez. And eventually, the team that was founded on the idea of sort of being selfless, all of a sudden ego and other things like that creep in, and the dynasty starts to fall apart. And so to me, it's not really a football story. It's a story about people, and they're just like us, except that what they're doing is on the largest stage imaginable.
And for you, just because you said that, one of the questions I had here was exactly that. I felt like It's incredible how the series show how extraordinary but also human these legendary players and coaches are. Was something that you had in mind on doing it and showing it?
Yeah, you know, I've been working in documentaries for 20 plus years now. A lot of times when you're making a documentary, what you're doing is you're taking very small stories and people that the audience will never have heard about before, and you're sort of lifting their stories up and making it seem larger than life and making them seem bigger than they might otherwise. With a story like Tiger or Amanda Knox, which I worked on before Tiger, and then especially this one, it's the opposite in a way, right? These are larger than life, almost godlike figures that, you know, have been celebrated and vilified and everything in between. And I think when you have that kind of a story, one of the things that you want to do is to show how they are humans just like us, and that they're going through these very small stories, and they're trying to do the best they can. It's just, like I said, it's on the biggest stage in front of hundreds of millions of people, you know, watching the Super Bowl every year, and you're getting to watch how they do it on a very human and small scale.
Jeff, quick question for you. The Chiefs have just won the Super Bowl, and I think we are witnessing a new dynasty. Being such an amazing author of great stories and great people, do you think we'll have a new dynasty book or series in the next few years?
I'm sure there'll be books written about the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and there should be. I mean, after winning this third one, by definition, they're a dynasty, at least in America. That's how we define it, as 3 championships with the same core nucleus, and the Chiefs have done that. I think what's interesting, of course, about the dynasty that Matt and I have just spent years working on is that it lasted 20 years, and it produced a partnership, for example, between Brady and Belichick that was, I mean, 20 years. I mean, that would mean that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid would have to play together for roughly 14 more years to be together as long as these two guys were. And when you just hear that number in football, that's physically almost impossible. And I think that's what's so unique about the Patriots. The Chiefs are now, as they should be, they're in a class with the Packers and the 49ers and the Steelers of yesteryear. But none of those teams are in a class with the Patriots. I mean, could the Chiefs get there? I mean, anything's possible, but we're talking about 2 really different things right now. But yeah, I'm sure there will be stuff written about them, and there should be.
That's awesome. And for the both of you watching the episodes, I felt that this is the definitive Belichick Brady era series. We had some, but this is so awesome. Did you guys imagine it would be launching just a few weeks after Coach Belichick, one of the main pillars of the dynasty, would be fired from the team? So we saw Brady leaving and now Belichick leaving, and it is over.
No. One word answer. No.
Yeah, no, they're much to the chagrin of folks on Twitter, the NFL, there's no script writers, and I wish we were that talented enough to be able to know exactly what was going to be happening when we released this thing, but we're not. And it was as much of a surprise to us as it is anybody else. But I also think, that being said, when you watch this series, I think you will understand some of the reasons why everybody has left now, except for the owner, Robert Kraft.
Last question, guys, for the both of you. We had some good dynasties in the NFL, the 90s Cowboys, the 80s Niners, the 70s Steelers, the 60s Packers. Which one would you think that it's the most entertaining to make a docu-series, if you could?
I'm a diehard Green Bay Packer fan. I think that would probably be my answer, is that I think Lombardi's a fascinating character. I think Bart Starr was an incredible quarterback, and to do it in the smallest market in the world, you know, for football, was pretty remarkable. That's my answer.
I don't have a good answer after the Patriots. I don't know.
I agree so much. Guys, thank you so much for your time and for this amazing series. I loved it. And I hope Brazil watches it a lot, because it helps understanding not only Patriots' story, but also the NFL and why it is growing so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
A série documental The Dynasty New England Patriots estreia mundialmente no dia 16 de fevereiro na Apple TV Plus e conta com 2 novos episódios toda semana. Obrigado por ter assistido a entrevista e se você gostou, deixa o gostei, se inscreve e a gente se vê na próxima.